one and a tough one because lots of debatable, arguments come in this. But across the sectors, you have technology, you have governance, you have health, and all these things. All these come together to a center stage where a man is concerned. In other words, if we look at our efforts, planning and developmental efforts, it has to be understood sociologically, not in terms of all sophisticated models. Say, I remember Dr. Saxena was my secretary then in the 9th plan appraisal. When I was tribal development part I was writing, he sent me a note saying, include this, Ms. Panda. It's nothing. The bottom line is that people have no capacity to negotiate development programs. So that aspect, see, you have huge, very nicely conceived, well-articulated programs, but if you, in a translation in terms of implementation, if it loses relevance to the people, and people don't make sense of your program, they are handicapped because they can't take advantage of it. For example, in the tribal areas, tribal areas are viewed in an all India level as like they are like omnibus thing. They are not. They vary from situation, geographical region, even within the central India. See, we try to pool the resources for for the tribals in terms of conceiving a kind of pooling mechanism called tribal subplan. At the beginning, the states have come across the sector. The idea of tribal subplan that each sector would come forward, earmark certain amount of funds for the development of tribals, and that would be pooled and kept at the disposal of the nodal department. It hardly happened with many states. Ultimately, it happened with Maharashtra, where they had separate commissionerate to keep the funds. But keeping parking funds is not enough. That's a very, like Madam said, you have a good expenditure and a good budgetary reflections in it. But these have not transformed. The resources are not managed to the extent that this indicates any outcome in terms of human development indicators over a period of time. And for that, see, our forefathers conceived that there are problematic areas, especially in the tribal areas. We cannot go with the general administrative approach. So they've kept a separate dedicated fund granted aid in Article 271 to devise such administrative mechanisms and method best suitable to implement the program. And bear with me, sir, till date, nothing such has come out. Now, as respect to the the digital aspect. I was going in the tribal areas of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh. I was focused on the old age pension, which was coming under NSAP. It was transferred directly to the bank. Old people come and wait there for hours and hours together. They don't know where to speak and how to speak and whom to speak. That being the state of affairs, the digital methods, if not handy to the people for whom it is meant for, it creates a great divide. We are at our end, they are at their end. So this bridge has to be bridged. That's likely coming back to saying the capacity has to be built of the people to rightfully articulate their needs and entitlements and get the program. The second thing, the development programs are generally conceived in a hierarchical, and they're relevant. They're well conceived. But I will give an example. I remember when I was doing my social anthropology, then Margaret Mead once said that she was working in Tahiti Islands, and they wanted to eradicate malaria from this Tahiti Island because the army base was there. All the doctors and army people called the villagers, made them sit around, they tried to explain to them as to what causes malaria. The big models of mosquitoes and big models of mosquitoes and lava and all that thing they demonstrated. All the tribal chiefs were happy and clapped. Then one of the tribal chiefs says, "Sir, we don't have that big mosquito, we have a small one only. So we don't have that big a problem." It happened so in back in home. We constructed houses quite a few for the tribal people. But the directions of the houses are towards the south, which for them is taboo to have opening. Although its house was constructed, everything was done, nobody moved into it. So there is a lots of lack of understanding of people. You are not able to reach out people, and people are not able to reach out. So you need a kind of a sociology of development and people to bring bridge together and to see that the people ask questions rather than we create our programs, then we study it and we find faults in that. So this is something which is important.